Okay, so we've done difference of squares. So quick review, if you were to factor x squared minus 4, that would factor x plus 2, x minus 2, okay? Or if you had a squared minus 9, that would factor a plus 3, a minus 3. Okay, so those are called a difference of squares. And those only work when we have a minus in the middle. That's why it's called a difference of squares. Okay? But when you get to cubes, we're going to use this formula. So a cubes problem will look like this. So I have x cubed minus 8. X cubed minus 8. So the formula for the negative one when we factor is a minus b. A squared plus a times b plus b squared. So what we have to find is the cube root of each of those. So the cube root of x cubed is x, and the cube root of 8 is 2. All right, so both of those are perfect cubes. So my a is the x term, and my b is the 2, and you never do a negative 2, all right? The negative sign will always happen here in the formula because this is a difference of cubes. You just have one negative. So you don't have to worry about doing any squaring of any negatives. Don't worry about any negatives. Just know the negative goes exactly in that first set of parentheses when you're factoring this guy right here. So what I'm going to end up with is a minus b, so the cube root, so x minus 2 in the first set of parentheses. Okay, and then it's always the first thing squared. So this thing squared would be x squared. And then it's always plus. And then we multiply them together. So I'm going to put 2x in the middle. And you always put the coefficient first, so 2x in the middle. And then plus the last thing squared. So 2 squared is 4. And that's your answer. You just follow the formula. It doesn't factor any further, and you're done. Okay? So that was a basic difference of cubes. Now let's do a basic sum of cubes. So the formula for the sum of cubes is that it factors like this with the minus sign in the middle over here instead of here. That's the only difference, is just the minus sign. Okay, so the cube root of y cubed is y. And what's the cube root of 27? 3. So my a is y, my b is 3, and we just substitute it in. So when I factor, we get y plus 3. Okay, and then it's the first thing squared, so y squared. In the middle, on this one, is always minus here, and then we multiply these together, so 3y. And then the last thing squared, so 3 squared is 9, and we're done. So it's purely memorizing a formula on this one. All right. Okay, then they're going to throw in a few more variables. So let's try this one. So I have 2m to the third y to the sixth plus y cubed. So the cube root of 8 is 2. The cube root of m to the third is m. And how do I do the cube root of y to the 6th? Yeah, how do you know it's y squared? So you have to think of this as m times m times m, and this one is 2 times 2 times 2. So this one would be y squared times y squared times y squared. That's how you would get y to the 6th. So the cube root would be y squared. Another way to remember is you always divide by what? 3. Okay? You divide that exponent by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2. All right? So anytime you have a bigger exponent, divide by 3. They all have to be perfect cubes or it doesn't work. So they're all going to be multiples of 3. All right? So this is now my a, and my b would just be x. And now we plug it into the plus formula. Right? So I'm factoring. Factor tractor. What goes in the first set of parentheses? 2my squared plus x. Okay, we add those together. Now, be careful in the second set of parentheses because we are squaring the entire a term. Okay, so is a squared, right? When you square this entire thing, what do I get for this? 4. What do I get for this? M squared. What do I get for this? Y to the 4th. All right. Then remember, this is where my one negative sign goes in the plus formula. And then we multiply these together. Okay, we don't square them. We just multiply a times b. So in the middle is 2mxy squared. Okay, order doesn't really matter, but do put the number in front. I don't really care if your variables are in order or not. Okay, and then plus, and the last part is the last thing squared. So we take whatever the last term is here, x, and we square it, so we get x squared. Any questions? Okay. So let's try a minus one that has multiple variables in it. So 64 p to the 6th, a to the 9th, minus x to the 3rd, y to the 12th. So first figure out what your a and your b are, and then know you're doing the formula for difference, because it's minus. So the minus sign is going to go in the first set of parentheses, okay? What's the cube root of 64? 4. What's the cube root of p to the 6th? Yeah, divide that by 3, so p squared. What's the cube root of a to the 9th? A cubed, because we divide by 3. Don't put a minus sign on this one, you guys. When you do your b and you're just writing what b is, don't put a minus sign, all right? So the cube root of x cubed is, okay, x to the 1st, and y to the 12th. What do we get when we divide by 3? All right, thank you. So now I have my a and my b, and we plug it into the formula. So the first part is 4p squared a cubed minus, and that's where my one negative sign goes, and everything else is going to be positive. One big set of parentheses here. Okay, for this first thing, we are going to square the entire first term. So be careful here, because we're going to have to square each thing. What do I get for the first part here? Whoops. Thank you, 16. And what do I get for the next part here? P4. And what do I get for the next thing here? A to the 6th plus. All right, so now in the middle, we multiply the two together. Okay, not squared, but multiply this times this. So that would be 4p squared a cubed x y to the 4th. Okay, multiply together. And then plus the last thing squared. So what do I get when I square that last thing? X squared y to the 8th. Good. And that's our answer. All right, so it's just the formula. All right, quick review because I think we keep missing this. I've been grading these, and they're problems when we have a negative in front. All right. So write this one down. We will do one of these on the whiteboards too. So when there's a negative in front, which two terms does it factor out of? Just the first two. So I have y equals negative. This becomes a positive x squared and a positive 4x, and we put plus a space. And do we change the sign on this number here? No. Okay, plus 5 goes here. Third term always moves over and always stays the same sign. All right. Now we take half the middle number and square it. So half of 4 is 2, and we square that number, so a plus 4 goes here. Okay, this is where people are mostly messing up. Do I put a plus 4 or a minus 4 right here? Plus. Good. So this value is negative 4 because of this negative sign. That means we add 4 here. So y equals, and now I have a negative, and then an x plus 2 goes in parentheses. Okay, and then plus 9. All right, without graphing, let's go through all these. All right, without graphing. And then I think you guys are pretty good at graphing. So the vertex, what would the vertex be? -2, +9. So the negative in front does not affect it, and the vertex is always opposite here, same here. All right, for the x-intercepts, we got to plug in 0 for y into this equation that we just found after completing the square. All right, first step is to subtract 9. Next step is to divide by a negative on both sides. That gets rid of the negative on both sides. So as long as there's a negative on both sides, we're good to go. Okay, square root both sides. This one's nice. What's the square root of 9? Good. We always have to remember, though, plus and minus 3. Then subtract 2 from both sides. So my x-intercepts are +3 minus 2. What's +3 minus 2? 1. And the other one is -3 minus 2. So we get 1, 0, -5, 0. For the y-intercept, the easiest thing is to go back to the original equation, this one right here, and plug in 0 for x. What do we get for the y-intercept? 5. All right? So when we plug in 0 for x in the original equation, we get 5. And the axis of symmetry is x equals -2. That would be the vertex. That goes with vertex. And there's going to be some questions about discriminant. Make sure you guys remember discriminant. So if there are 2 x-intercepts, the discriminant is positive. Okay? And that also means there are 2 solutions. There are 2 roots. Okay, so it could ask you multiple questions on that. Make sure you're